Hi, everyone. My name is Amber Kelly, Executive Director for the Society for Community Research and Action. And today is the last day for our Welcome Week sessions. And so this session focus on the different regions, students, interest group, councils, representatives that are doing so many exciting things that you may have seen or may not have seen. And so this is just a space for you to learn about these initiatives and hopefully share your gift in one or multiple spaces. And so what we're just going to do is just go around and each representative is just going to talk a little bit about what they're doing in their group and how you can connect. And if we have any time after, we may do some small group breakouts if that's desired. But essentially, this is just a space for members to learn more about what's happening in SCRA. And so I am going to first, I'm just going off of which squares are in my Zoom. Zoom. And so I'll start off with early career. So Vernita, will it just be you presenting?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, and are you needing to share your screen?
We'll see. I might have to. I think most everybody kind of knows what we've been doing. So
Okay. So
yes.
you are pinned.
Perfect.
And there you go.
So hello, everyone. I am Dr. Vernita Perkins, and I'm the Early Career Interest Group Chair, along with my co-chairs, Cherie Bielecki and Jordan Tackett-Russell. And the focus since 2019, when we were engaging the Early Career Interest Group, the focus was to really find out what early careers needed, like what their experience was and what it was like. And we're looking at early careers in practice, academy, and research. So the focus was to kind of first figure out where everybody was at and what they wanted. So we spent the first year really focusing on social support. And in the last probably 2 years, we've made a pivot to really focusing more on career pathways. And last fall, we did a decolonized professional development over 3 months, which was well received. We've been hearing a lot of positive feedback since then about the transformations in people's early career paths. And so now this year, we'll finish the year. We spent the first part again focusing on specific needs, helping people build resumes, helping people figure out exactly what their paths were. And so for the rest of the year, we have our speaker series. So we're going to have 3 professional development, decolonized professional development speakers come in and really talk about the stuff you don't hear about in each of their topic fields. And we'll be sending out marketing for that. And then the last 3 meetings will be devoted to early career professionals who will get the opportunity to present and experience receiving compensation through honorariums. So again, the goal was really to kind of launch early careers, bring focus to early careers, because I know oftentimes folks in early career stages end up sort of being invisible or dismissed. And so we really wanted to center them in the group and really focus on the needs. We also expanded the early career from the 7 years, because APA does 10, and most other societies that I've seen have started to move to 10, because we know it takes a minute to really kind of establish yourself. And once you graduate, it takes a few minutes to just try to figure it all out. So our focus again was really heavy mentoring, and then expanding that from 7 to 10 years, and then also including high school and undergrad. So we want to make sure that the pathways are there. Part of that was my own experience not getting any of that kind of mentoring, and kind of constantly be wandering in the woods trying to figure out where I needed to be and what I needed to be doing, and a lot of trial and error, which is not necessary when we have such a divisive, planet right now. And I believe we need all psychologists on ground busy helping heal our planet. So that's been the focus. And then we also started 2 projects in cooperation with Sarah, the school engagement Council, School Engagement IG, COE, and I'm just looking at the fire to make sure I didn't. Immigrant Justice also was in there. And part of that goal was, again, to create a space where literature and research that's often ignored or dismissed by all the marginalized groups, and that covers all of them, not just racial, but career-wise and geographical. We wanted to help those folks who are trying different methodologies to actually get some focus. So we're still working on that project. I think there's been a learning curve in people understanding what we're trying to accomplish, but it's really about making sure that those folks who often get ignored, and the science and research and practice and community work that gets ignored gets focused. And I'll be working extra hard on that in the next couple of months, because I had a personal and career pivot myself. So again, that's early career, kind of in a quick nutshell. We're super excited about the success that we've been having. Oh, and the last thing is we've been working on helping people get published. So I know the publisher parish and academy and the tenure stuff, and we're trying to understand that, but at the same time really push through that. And so the focus was to get people's work out. Again, APA, many of the other psychology societies around the world are focusing on getting our work disseminated to the public. So we spent a lot of time in the last 2 years too, getting our members to start publishing in the TCP. And we actually added a peer review component, so that now we have from author, teaching people how to author articles, how to collaborate on those articles, how to peer review, how to edit, and how to submit to journals. And since I've done all of those things myself, and I do a tremendous amount of peer review, I wanted to make sure that we implemented those steps so people really understood what it is and allowed themselves to jump in when they see things on the listserv or notices about peer review. Now they actually understand it. And then we've also been really, and I would say this to everybody, making sure that those things get on your resume and on your CV, as a reminder to yourself of the things that you've accomplished, and less about all of this competition in society and trying to one up each other, but more about saying, these are the things that I did. And so you get a better framework of what you should be compensated for, right? You know, because we do have expertise. So that's kind of all of it in a nutshell. I'm super excited about what we've accomplished. It has been a long road to get here. And we also appreciate the collaborations that we've had with the other IGs and councils, because it's good just to get the word out. And then again, I want to also, not to be, you know, corny or anything, but thank you, Amber, for constantly pushing us to have these type of sessions so that we did get to know each other in the last year, and it's been super helpful.
Thank you, Vernita. And now we will hear from Sarah. I'm going to just pin you in a moment. And don't worry, Vernita, I'm going to remove you as a pin. Yes, you gotta love all this Zooming.
All right, thanks, Amber. So I'm here representing the School Engagement Interest Group. Our group relaunched in 2019. We had a group of us that connected at the biennial, and there was some interest in getting folks that are connected or work with schools within SCRAW, getting us all connected and networking. And so our mission is to really just build community psychology practice, research, theory that relates to, we say P16 schools, so that's like grade school, high school, and college, all across the spectrum, and any other educational spaces too. So things like, some people work with like out of school time programs, or youth mentoring, after school programs, things like that as well. And since we've relaunched in 2019, we've done a couple of things. We've often we have a couple sessions a year where members are sharing their work. So that's, you know, a dissertation, a research project that they've recently completed, or one that's in progress and they want to get feedback on. some folks have shared like a passion project that they've worked on that they're not necessarily getting compensated with, but something that's related to education that they feel is important. And we also do some skill sharing. So things like how do you manage work with like existing large data sets. So we've done a couple of our monthly calls where someone is like sharing a resource or sharing their work. In 2020, we started a bunch of work to really look at the issue of school policing and school resource officers, because kind of in response to all of the community organizing and racial justice movements that our members were connected with, we saw that as an important way for us to leverage our skills and our training and our networks to make a statement on that. And so we spent a good deal of time trying to do that thoughtfully, to integrate things like the history and systems, and to really understand the impact of school policing, or we call them school-based law enforcement, SBLE, on young people, on communities, and on our broader society. So that's something we've been working on for a while, and I'm happy to report that we have recently submitted that position statement for review. So that's kind of the work that we've been up to. We're always very excited to welcome new folks that are interested in work or currently doing work that's related to schools or other educational spaces. This upcoming year, we're looking to continue some of that work, but also bring new ideas as well. So sharing the work that members are doing. We focus a lot on building relationships and connections. So every meeting we start with what we call check-in and connect, where we're whether that's like a icebreaker activity or just kind of informal chatting. We always like to start with that. So continuing that focus of networking. And we're also looking to do more like group discussion on things. So I think we might start something called like a media club, where we, someone is maybe sharing a recent article that they published, or something like that. So yeah, we would love to have new folks, and I'll turn it back to Amber so other folks can share their work.
Thanks, Sarah. And now we will have our other Sarah that's on the line.
I love that both of us are spelling our names without H's. You don't find that too often. Good morning, y'all. It's great to see everybody here. I'm Sarah Buckingham. I am the outgoing co-chair of Immigrant Justice. So really happy to talk a little bit about that group today, and also put a call out that we are looking for another co-chair as I transition out of the role to join my wonderful co-chair, Mashoud Alanrewahu. So if you're interested at all in taking on leadership in another group, please feel free to contact me, as the new person will step into that new role in January. So Immigrant came to be, gosh, it's been a bit now, maybe 7-ish years. We became a new interest group at SCRA, really arising from some of the horrors that were taking place at the national level in the United States, but also around the globe as well. And really came to be actually after a biennial session where some folks got together and discussed family detention. And then Immigrant Justice kind of spurred from there. Today we have a pretty large group, but a smaller core group of us actually make it to our monthly meetings, but a large group engages on our listserv, which is wonderful. Our next meeting is actually tomorrow. So if anybody wants to come, we always meet on the third Friday of the month at 3 o'clock Eastern or noon Pacific. And our group is made up of academics, practitioners, students, activists in the community, anyone who is interested in issues of immigrant justice, both in the United States and around the globe. We recently redid our statement of purpose for the group, so I thought I would just read it out to folks because I think it captures what we do really well. So our group's purpose is to work towards permanent protection, dignity, and respect for the migrant communities worldwide, including immigrants, refugees, asylees, and asylum seekers, including communities on the move and communities left behind. We work at multiple levels, including at the local level, to educate SCRA members about opportunities to collaborate with local agencies and organizations in support of migrant communities. At the organizational level, to provide information and tools that can be shared with local groups to support migrant communities. And at the national and international levels, to advocate for the rights of migrant communities around the globe. And the work of our group has focused not only on community building and really providing a lot of mentorship and support within the group and bridging some of the gaps that often happen in the research practice student activist world, but then also to do a lot of collaborative work together. One of the ways that we've done a lot of work as a group is similar to what Sarah was saying earlier, where we've written 3 policy statements as an interest group that have been adopted by the society. So the first one was on incarceration of undocumented immigrant families. The second was on deportation and forced separation of immigrants. And then the third was on the role of settings in supporting immigrants' resistance to injustice and oppression. And so that's been a really critical way that we've had a voice in the field and also represented the larger society since they've gotten adopted as SCRA policy statements. We also have practice conversations where we come together and just discuss our work and get support from one another. We do a lot of media work, a lot of policy advocacy work individually, as well as a larger group as well. And oftentimes those involve discussions and collaboration with the APA as well, being a division of the APA. So that's a little bit of what we're up to. I would be happy to talk through anything else that folks want to talk to, but don't want to take up too much space here. So thank you, Amber. I'm not sure if Amber had to step away. She might be here.
I'm still here.
Oh, you're still here. Awesome.
Love your
It
necklace,
looked like it got busy in your room, so just checking in.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. And so next, we're going to have 2 people on the screen, and that will be representing COE.
Thank you, Amber. So Mason and I are here as a tag team to talk about the Council on Education. So I'm going to pass it to Mason to give some background and general discussion, and then I'm going to share my screen and show some nifty things that we've been creating as of late. You are so muted.
Hi, I've just learned how to use Zoom for the first time. Thanks, Julia. I'll keep things brief so we can jump to the neat stuff that you're going to share with the group. So the Council on Education has been around for quite a while, almost as long as the society has been around, and it's been through a lot of iterations. It used to be that it was a group of program directors, directors of graduate programs that would meet. They'd gather, a couple times a year, get together, talk about graduate program issues. Progressively over the years, the council's broadened. First, it was a variety of representatives from programs, still graduate programs. Then around the time that we changed our name from the Council for Educational Programs to the Council on Education, we started embracing undergraduate programs and non-traditional settings outside of universities where education and training is completed. We started having more student members, and now at this point, the Council on Education is as much about promoting educational advancement in the field and graduate programs. It's as much about expanding the scope of what we value and support as educators in the field as it is about sustaining and promoting what historically has been at the core of attention of the group. So I think Sarah, SARA, shared her mission statement for the Immigrant Justice Group. And we also recently revised our mission statement. So I'm just going to share that really quickly, although you can read it, just because I think it gives you a sense of how we've kind of pivoted and how the identity of the group is different from, kind of a stodgy group of program directors. The mission of the SCRA Council on Education is to help create, support, and advocate for educational settings that actively embrace those from every background, especially those who have been historically excluded from educational participation, and nurture the many varied and unique professional identities, perspectives, and skills of community researchers and practitioners. We do this through facilitating access to knowledge, tools, and resources for community psychology research and practice, strengthening collaboration among educators and practitioners, and recognizing the achievements and experiences of those contributing to our shared vision and goals. So in terms of strategies there, you heard some focus on networking. One of the things that we've done historically is sort of keep track of all of the different programs that are offering training in community psychology. And, we create and maintain and are updating a list of that. And it used to be just graduate programs, and we've expanded to undergraduate programs and certification programs. We've done surveys every 3 or 4 years. Historically, those surveys have been of graduate programs. We're considering in the upcoming year focusing on undergraduate programs, primarily, again, with the view to expanding the scope. And we see undergraduate programs as being just as important as graduate programs to the survival of graduate programs, because that's our pipeline. People have to know about community psychology, and where do they find out? They find out in undergrad. We've been involved in some of the racial justice activities recently of the society. We had an initiative for a year called the Racial Justice Inquiry, Discourse, and Action Initiative, where we supported several students in decolonial exploration and dialogue with the society. We do some standard yearly things like we select an outstanding educator or educators in the field. We have new projects every year, which are driven by interests of our members, whoever they are. And we happen to have 2 of our members, Julia today, and also Cherie on the line right now. Currently, we're working on 2 projects. Julia will talk about the Knowledge Hub in just a moment. We also have an ongoing initiative called Building Bridges, which is, again, undergraduate focused. It's recruiting graduate students to do seminars and brown bags for undergraduate students to introduce them to the field and get them, oriented to what community training is all about. So quite a bit going on. And again, at this point, we're very driven by the interests of our members. We have, at this point, I don't think we have any program directors. We have a couple of longtime members, including one person who was in the very first iteration of the COE when it was reconstituted 20 years ago from Portland State. We have a couple of students. We have people like myself. I've been in practice for a couple of years. I'm just going back in education. So there's a real gamut of people involved. But at this point, I think I'm going to turn it over to Julia, who's been working hard with us on this, this Knowledge Hub, which I think is very exciting, and will give you kind of a concrete idea of the kinds of things that you might be involved in if you were to join us. And last, before I turn it over, we meet on a monthly basis. I'm not always good about posting the meetings on the SCRA website ahead of time, but they are quite predictable. They're the 3rd Monday of every month from 1 to 2 Eastern Standard Time. So if you have further questions, if you'd like to get in touch with me or any of us to find out more about the COE before you join, or if you just want to show up, we'll welcome you. So Julia, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Mason. So you might have seen emails from other SCRA members saying, does anybody have any readings or syllabi on this topic or that topic? I'm putting together a course, or I'm trying to do some facilitation in the community. And what we're trying to do is to create we're creating a repository of all of these resources so that they can be in one unified place. So we're in the what do we call it, beta testing phase of this. And so I'm gonna, if I'm allowed to, share my screen and show you the Knowledge Hub spreadsheet that we have right now. So as you can see here, We have a number of different resource types, so from syllabi to readings, videos, reference lists, etc., across a wide range of topics. And if it is pertaining to a university course or a K through 12 course, then it also says the course there as well. So I'll just show you a couple of these to give you a sense of what it is. So if you're looking, you're like, you know what, I'm starting to build out my syllabi right now. Let me take a look and see what the Knowledge Hub has. So I'd see, oh, there's, here's a graduate seminar on community psychology. Great, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And it's in person and hybrid, perfect. And here are some of the different topics that are related to it. I'd be able to just click on that syllabus and get to it. So that's one example of type of resource. We also have videos here as well, and you'll take a look at the resource description to see if it's something that would be interesting for you to implement into any of your facilitation or education or coursework as an educator facilitator. And then it's really easy access there. And we're always looking for people to contribute to this. So I'll post this form in the chat, or you can, if you're like, I just did this amazing course, or I just went to the Boys and Girls Club and facilitated some after school programming. I think everybody should have access to this. Or I just read this life-changing document, reading article, then you could share it that way. So that's one part of the Knowledge Hub. The other part of the Knowledge Hub is we want to utilize these resources and convene around them. So we're creating something called the Knowledge Hub Brown Bag. And the purpose of this is to share education practice in the spirit of community psychology. So it all has to do with how we facilitate, how we convene, how we educate in the spirit of community psychology or community research and action. And so we're going to be having monthly events starting this September. So if you have a resource that you really want to share and you think it would be a great opportunity, a great venue to do it in a virtual space such as this, then send me an email and I'll post my email in the chat here. And maybe if there's some stuff going out in addition to this video, then we can also post our information that way. But even if you're like, another monthly meeting, I'm not going to do it. But if you say, I have 5 minutes to send in a syllabi that I used or an activity that went really well, then that is so helpful, not only to us to create this repository, but every other SCRA member who are educating and facilitating in the spirit of community psych. Okay, I'll pass it back to Amber now.
Just to add real quickly, this just started, so you don't see a ton of resources in there, but that's because we just started soliciting. And there is a history of the COE doing this sort of thing and gathering resources on the website. And so this is kind of the next iteration of that process. And we're hoping to make it a little bit more dynamic and have the activities that Julia mentioned so that people are able to engage around the resources rather than just, get online and look for a syllabus or look for a video or something like that. But my understanding is that the former version was the page of the SCRA website that had the most hits, even though it was actually not easy to find. So this is these resources will be used, and especially if people start contributing actively, and this catches fire a little bit. So I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about it for my own teaching. And I hope people are, willing to at least consider contributing resources, or, better yet, getting involved in some of these brown bags and events.
All right. Well, thank you both. And next we'll hear from our council, Sarah, not a representative named Sarah. Sarah, sorry. So we're gonna add one more person. Okay. All right, you both can take it away.
Thanks, Amber. I'm Cynthia Colburn, and I have my my current co-chair, Jerry Palmer. Actually, she's our past chair. I want to put in a plug here that, we're looking for new co-chairs as well to step up and be able to relieve Jerry of her past chair role and to help us drive our mission forward. So we represent the Council for Cultural, Ethnic, and Racial Affairs. CERA actually started out as a committee back in 1976 and has since become a council, I would say around like 2017, and grew in membership and in activities since then. But our mission has really had 5 parts to it. To represent issues of cultural diversity and promote the concerns of Black, Indigenous, and people of color as a focus of community research and intervention, to promote the concerns and well-being of our BIPOC communities with an interest in community psychology, and to support them in the field, to promote the training and professional development for our BIPOC community psychologists, and to advise the executive committee on matters of concern to both our BIPOC colleagues and to BIPOC communities at large, ultimately in decisions that pertain to the well-being of our BIPOC communities and to this dismantling of systemic racism. So, we have an ambitious mission, and, as you can see, we need a lot of mobility and support to be able to carry out all parts of our mission. And so with a lot of work, ahead of us, anyone who wants to jump on board at any piece of this, we're happy to have you. We have meetings each month that have in the past, sometimes involved planning for initiatives that might address any part of our mission, and then sometimes been a space, a healing space for our colleagues to come and be able to support each other. And so, we try to strike that balance of being able to provide that supportive, safe space, and also to be able to inspire some action towards justice. I'm going to turn it over to Jerry to talk a little bit about things that our council has done in the past, and then I'll talk about what we've got going on currently.
Sure. Yep. Thanks, Cynthia. So hi, everybody. I am here actually to support and represent Sarah, but I'm also here, and I'll talk about this first, to also support and represent the SCRA Publications Committee, of which I'm a member. So I'll start there. The chair of the SCRA Publications Committee is Dr. Judah Viola, who is the associate chair at National Louis University. Looking at what we've done over the past year, because I think it's been a couple of years that I've been a member, the committee has about 10 members, including the editors of the TCP, as well as the editors of the American Journal of Community Psychology. And so overall, the Publications Committee looks at disseminating, so I'll just kind of read this too, because I think it's just a lot easier that way. So the SCRA Publications Committee works to identify, encourage, implement, and oversee effective ways of disseminating information about community research and action. The committee works closely again with the editors of SCRA Publications. That includes the TCP newsletter, the SCRA book published, the SCRA book published series, or the SCRA book series published by Oxford University. And I'll say a little bit more about that in just a second. And I mentioned the AJCP, or the American Journal of Community Psychology. So one of the things that we want to put forward today is the top priority over the next 6 months is looking at educational sessions for SCRA members. Of course, this will probably be via Zoom, on the topic of open science and covering how members can disseminate. And so this is in line also, I believe, with what the ECIG, Dr. Perkins shared regarding publications, but disseminate publications and develop their work in a variety of outlets, including OER, which is Open Education Resource. And many of you probably know that Dr. Viola and I and 2 other editors just recently published Case Studies in Community Psychology Practice, a Global Lens, which is in the OER space. We're going to put a call out for chapters coming up, but that's a whole nother conversation too. But I wanted to share that because the conversation is centering on whether or not OER will move into a space where it will be viable for academia, professors attempting to get tenure. You need to be published. Dr. Perkins mentioned publish or perish. And so, most folks know in that field or in academia that needs to happen. And so we want to have those conversations around that, particularly to lead the movement in that and be instrumental at the top of pushing OER forward so that it is viable and useful when you're trying to get tenure, et cetera, and get promoted. I'll throw a Google Doc link into the chat. So if you're interested in that, we have started a brainstorming Google Doc that we'd be so happy if you would throw your input in and to help us move this forward. And so then the other thing this year is we're creating a space where we are trying to work with having the TCP editors also edit the SCRA book series. And so I want to make sure I speak to that, because we're looking also for input on what do you think would be a good SCRA book series that we could put together. And now that I'm talking about this, I think it would be instrumental as well as really beneficial if that might be a collaborative effort really to look at that, because the past book series or the past books that have been in the series, they've been good ones, but I don't know that they're widely visible or that it's had as much impact as the authors would have liked for their work too. So please, keep that in mind, and let's continue to collaboratively talk about what that might look like. So I know on behalf of Dr. Viola, the Publications Committee welcomes everyone, existing members, as well as anybody new who wants to come on board and join us in this work. Dr. Viola typically sends a doodle poll for meetings, and we don't have a standing meeting date. We will just do it when there's a consensus for when everyone can come together. So again, please think about joining us and think about how the Publications Committee can be more instrumental and viable in SCRA, and what that looks like for everybody, because this is a community where we want to make sure that we are having that everyone has an input and an impact to that end. So for that space. So then I am the past chair of Sarah, and Cynthia said co-chair, and I've been that too, in interim, and all of those things above when you are trying to push forward the work that we are all doing. And so she mentioned that Sarah moved from a committee to a council, and I think you're right. I think it's either 2017 or 2018. And so that was a great move to do that. We have authored position statements and documents that SCRA has also adopted, including Sarah's position on diversity, which can be found on the website. We also wrote papers, position statements regarding the New Zealand massacre that SCRA adopted. And I think there are a couple of more as well that the policy committee also agreed to and that SCRA adopted to that end. So we are instrumental. Sarah members, not just Sarah in general, are instrumental in issuing the call to action to address internal racism and othering within SCRA that the SCRA community and leadership continues to work on. We issued a number of racial justice mini grants in 2020, I believe 2021, of which I was a recipient in 2020, along with other Sarah members, to push forward racial justice and anti-Blackness practices. We sponsored a pre-conference workshop in collaboration with the early interest group last year at the SCRAW Biennial. And Sarah leadership is also working with the local planning committee this year in Atlanta to plan out the next biennial, which we are all excited about. That's happening at the infamous HBCU Morehouse. So yay, we are excited about going to Atlanta in June of next year, of which my daughter is there studying at Clark Atlanta. So we're trying to get some collaboration and synergy going. So any input, etc., thoughts, let's get this thing popping and get, some great traction down there in the ATL. So we also at the table, Sarah's also at the table in collaboration with the Practice Council, working on decolonizing the practice competencies to reflect more inclusivity in the field. Some of you know that, but the door is open as well for those of you who may have heard about it and not really knowing what's going on. It is an open door. Please feel free to join in. Tom Wolf, the chair of the Practice Council, always sends those notices out. And so please don't think that that is a closed session, etc. That is open for everyone involved in Sarah, and I'm sorry, in SCRAW, Sarah, and everything else as well. So, yep. I think that gives so I probably have forgotten some things, but definitely gives an overview of Sarah's work as well as the SCRAW Publications Committee. Okay, Cynthia, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jerry. And then I just want to highlight our two kind of current focuses in topics of focus right now, or initiatives of focus as we move forward in this year. So one, Sarah actually, some of our members got together and put together a workshop series, which we launched in early June, had our first session, and this really kind of came about organically from our conversations and more so about how we can model conversations about race and racism, and allow that space in a way that allows for some true, safe, and transparent conversations to occur. So it's called The Color of Power. You've probably seen it advertised on the listserv back in May, and we hope to have future sessions moving forward, which we'll be sending out more announcements about on the listserv. It's open for all to join in and to sign up for as you see it come, and if you're available. If you miss one, it's not a linear series by any means, and so it's kind of, join any session as it works for you. So be on the lookout for that. And then the other thing that you'll probably see come across the listserv is announcement for our Action for Racial Justice and Equity Fund. And so this is a new initiative that we're launching to help support specifically, or we hope, grassroots organizations and community-led organizations in delivering services and engaging in practices and advocating for action for BIPOC communities that are directly associated with racial justice. And so in some capacity, addressing any of the sectors where we see injustice occurring, including housing, education, employment, youth development, et cetera, et cetera. So at any of those points of intervention in community sectors. So this is something new that we hope will support more initiatives that actually center BIPOC voices in the work, and that are actually geared towards action rather than just as our previous mini grants programs were, which were geared more towards research and and disseminating in the academic realm. We hope that this is more geared towards actually connecting and pushing for action out in the communities. So be on the lookout for those, disseminate those widely as well as you see them to the groups that that they would apply to. And we invite you to join us at any of our future meetings.
Thank you both. And next we will hear from Cherie. And Cherie, I will just pin you in just a moment.
Thank you, Amber. Amber and I are always laughing at the fact that I'm in so many interest groups. So for this meeting, I will be representing the community psychology practice in an undergraduate setting, also known as the Undergraduate Interest Group. I am the co-chair along with Ola Glansman. And our group, I always call it a undergraduate think tank group. We are surrounded by educators, researchers, and practitioners who work in the undergraduate setting in some shape or form. So our group is, I guess our mission is to provide support and share materials and knowledge, as well as mentor for students, early careers, and others working in the undergraduate setting. So we come together, I mean, we have the most amazing conversation on materials, how can we best support each other, as well as bringing in guest speakers to talk about things that have to do with or relates to the undergraduate setting. So some of the goals or initiatives we have for this year, and we do partner with a lot of different groups. So this one is the initiative of sharing and creating knowledge, as the COE group mentioned, Mason and Julia. So we've been working on this for, I would say, even before I started in the undergraduate setting group, 2019, we've always created or collected materials such as syllabi, classroom activities, and readings for other instructors in our group. But one of the things we had a challenge with, because on the SCRAW website, I'm glad we're revamping everything. It was hard for us to find things that specifically targeted the undergraduate group. So we've always talked about, let's, come together, let's share, syllabi so we can use in the classroom. And so, we're always talking about this, we're always sharing information, and that is an initiative that has been around at least, I would say, at least 4 years within the group. Our second initiative includes organizing a series of sharing opportunities related to community psychology education to support the work of others, as mentioned. So it could be one of the things or conversations we had 2 years ago, or right at the beginning of the pandemic, was how do we teach online? That was one of the, I guess, it was a difficult time for educators that year. So we were sharing best practices in the classroom and things that we were piloting in the classroom. So from that conversation, we continue to talk about what does online learning look like. There's various formats, hybrid, high flex, et cetera. So we continue to meet regarding that. And actually, we're getting ready to meet to support each other on the fall season. We're collecting readings. We're going to share innovative activities that we've done for the past, this past year, and support each other as we go through the year. Another discussion that came up this particular year was, what do undergraduate students do after graduation? Many of them do not go on to grad school. And so this became an interest of us within the group. And so that will be a continued discussion. This current year is to provide maybe career opportunities at the bachelor's level, as well as look at other things that the graduates can do. We're also working with the mentoring group on the Building Bridges project. So this is mentoring opportunities for undergraduate students interested in community psychology. So they are mentored by graduate level students, and Ola is the she is managing this particular mentoring group, and it has been very successful. Many of the undergraduate students have shared, success stories, especially those who are first generational, college students. So this has been a very amazing mentoring session for them. In regards to our speaker series, we've had quite a few speaker series. I'm just going to name a few because I know we are pressed for time. One was the Anti-Racist Pedagogy by Dr. Brenton Likes. Sarah Grace Frary, Sarah did a series on, well, not a series, a workshop on engaging pronouns in the classroom. And this was very eye-opening to educators as well as students who came and joined the session. And one more session I would like to share is community psychology education in Zimbabwe. So sometimes we share what community psychology looks like in an undergraduate setting internationally, and we do a lot of comparisons. We take information from everyone, and we're able to implement this in our own settings. And the last thing that I wanted to share was an article that Naomi and her students put together in the TCP. This was actually for the summer article. And in here, and this was great because we were talking about, we never really talk about, or we never hear the voices of the students in our setting. So Naomi decided to share, her and her students decided to reflect on a class project that they did. And so the students described how their experiential learning revealed the meaning, value, and challenges of community-based participatory action research, PAR. And so this was a great article. The group read the article, and so many of us want to share what we're doing in the classroom setting. So those are some of the things that we're doing in the undergraduate interest group. Please feel free to join us. Please send people our way. They would love the conversations and some of the things that we are doing in the undergraduate setting. Thank you.
Thank you, Cherie. And last and certainly not least, we have Jessica.
Thanks. So I'll be speaking on behalf of the Indigenous Interest Group and the student reps. So first with the Indigenous Interest Group, well, mainly in the past year, we have been hosting meetings every other month, every 2 months, and it's really just a space where we invite Indigenous members as well as allies to talk about anything that must be on their mind, similar to what the other interest groups have mentioned. Just sharing updates, sharing projects, bringing up discussions. We also have had guest speakers. The last guest speaker was about community-based participatory research projects in Alaska, in a specific Alaskan community. I wish I knew which one. I wasn't there, so I couldn't specify, but there are those opportunities, opportunities to attend our meetings. It's open to everyone and anyone who may be interested. No one, you don't have to identify as Indigenous, but we do open the space up for advocates, community members, allies, practitioners, academics, etc. So then I'm going to be talking about the student reps, and I am the past student rep for the SCRA executive committee, and I just quickly want to share my screen, and I want to show you all this nifty slide that shows the different interest groups that are in SCRA, as well as the councils and committees, the different regions, and then the executive committee and who comprises the executive committee. In addition to the president, secretary, treasurer, etc., student reps sit on the executive committee. So really what we do is advocate for student concerns on the EC and within SCRA, and we try to increase student involvement at the undergraduate level, graduate level in SCRA. So there are 2 student reps at a time. We each serve a 2-year term. So I am officially the past student rep. And right now we have Erin Baker, a graduate student at National Louis University, as a 2nd-year student rep. So Erin and I serve together at once. And then Erin has the pleasure of serving with Raquel Rose, who is the 1st-year rep. She is a graduate student at NYU, or New York University. And quickly, I just want to say that anything that student reps are up to would be shared on the website. We go to if you go to who we are, students, we have 3 tabs, and we have all the updates about who to contact, how to contact them, any upcoming conferences, publication opportunities, and the community psychologist. Since student reps have a column in the community psychologist, we invite anyone who wants to share some work under the student issues column to feel free and reach out to us, or Erin and Raquel now. In addition to that, we provide student representative updates. Because we sit on the executive committee, we try to keep this up to date every time we have a meeting, so that way students are in the know about what's going on and what is talked about. And all of this information we try to share in the email, through email, letting students know that there are new updates on the website. We also try to have events. So the past 8 months, we started the SR Monthly, which is a monthly community event where we just invite students to come and share something that may be on their mind, maybe get to know new fellow community psychologists, both at the undergraduate and graduate level. And again, that happens monthly. However, in the summer we took a hiatus because summer, at least in the United States, can be a wild time. And then we also started Career Chat, which happens monthly. And this is actually something that Dr. Amber Kelly pushed us to do, and we were really excited about that. So we continued doing it, where we host a community psychologist, and they get to share about their experience, their path, how did they come to community psychology, how did they get to where they are now. And again, we welcome everyone to attend. It's not just for students, it's for anyone who may be interested. All of these are recorded, but it's up to the discretion of the presenter on whether or not they want to share the recording, just because they may be talking about some things that are real. And if you really want to see what they talk about, you just have to push people to attend. Feel free to attend. we have two upcoming speakers, Dr. Jonathan Skashia and Dr. Geetika Talwar, and we'll be sending out flyers for those two guest speakers soon. And lastly, one of the biggest things that we do as SCRA student representatives is ask to get some money to fund student research. These are through grants. Every year we have, I forgot since when, we fund about 4-ish students on average, $1,000 to complete their projects, whether it be thesis or dissertations. And any details about the grant is on the website. It's also shared through email when the time comes. And usually the application opens in springtime. There may be changes to that. I'm not sure what Erin and Raquel will decide to do, but historically, the application opens in the springtime. And I think that's it. There must be more, but yeah, that's us in a brief moment.
All right. Well, thank you for everyone that attended today's session and shared about interest group, councils, student reps, regions, committees, all of that good jazz. And so if you're watching this recording, please feel free to reach out to any of the presenters to share your gift in one of those spaces. Thank you and look forward to hosting future sessions.